These are the voyages of the Starship Enterprise. Its continuing mission to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new life and new civilizations, to boldly go where no one has gone before.
Hi everyone, this is Stryker and welcome to episode number 15 of my Redout Advanced Strategy Guide. To celebrate the 15th anniversary of this series, I am going to showcase 15 checkpoints with 5 different vehicles in the most infamous career mode event of Redout, Debris Trophy. Then, I will go over the advanced strategies that you need to know to set this milestone for yourself. Let's get right into it, starting with the vehicle that proved to be by far the most difficult to achieve the 15 checkpoints with, and then a montage of the 4 other ships that were able to reach that goal.
3, 2, 1, go! Platinum Medal awarded. 2, 1, go! medal awarded.
So as we start the survival event, the first thing that you need to do as a newcomer to this particular track and to this particular run is to figure out where the mines are located. So our first set of mines here are in the middle of the track as we get to the starting line. I would recommend that you stay to the inside of this turn and allow the ship to stay pretty close to that inside corner. From here, we're going to encounter the second set of mines more near the outside. These should not be problematic because we're hugging the inside of the corner. Same story with these mines up ahead. Now, as we get through this first little chicane, what we are going to look to do is hit our first turbo boost, steer as little as possible through this right to left, and eventually fly out just to the right side of those rings on the top part of the screen. To facilitate this, I recommend that when you reach the end of the track surface, you stay very much to the right side. That is going to free up one of the track's most critical shortcuts, which is to not fly through the rings as intended and land onto the base of the track as I'm showing with my mouse, but rather fly over this segment and use the visual of these 3 X marks in the corner of that track as our position to land. So notice how by staying high enough over this track, I'm able to skirt right over that corner, save a lot of time, and try to catch right before the kill plane about here. Now, as we set up for this shortcut, if you are too low in this section, the track will in some ways magnetize you back and you'll hit this barrier. So make sure you fly relatively high. Now when we get to here, you'll see the kill plane start to encroach. What you want to do is try to slide just over that left lip of this barrier. If you do that properly, and you do it far enough upwards on the track, you should be able to slot the ship in, catch the surface, and exit with a very clean wall bounce that will push you more to the middle and allow you to once again exit here at the right edge of the jump. If you aren't quite as proficient with managing the ship, you can still get 13 checkpoints by landing here where my mouse is and taking the left-hand turn. Just don't expect to be able to get 14 or subsequently 15. Now as we cross through here, I recommend you to pay attention to the next set of mines. So the 2 mines are in the middle of the track. I am looking to land on the right end. So this is the 3rd time in a row we cross a section of mines and we want to land just to the right of them. Once I do this, I try not to oversteer, let the ship's momentum glide me to the left edge of that jump, and exit myself in a straight line towards this upcoming loop. Now in the air, and you'll see this in a number of times in this particular run, I am using a right side counter strafe to gain that extra 25 to 35 kilometers per hour to set myself up best for the future. Now, there's 2 ways we can land this jump. We can land very, very close to the bottom here, which gives you the benefit of less speed loss when you actually contact the track surface, but you are sacrificing some airtime speed. What I've decided to do in this run is fly a little higher, which preserves more airtime with a slightly sharper drop in velocity as we hit this loop. From here, the Acera gives us the potential to micro boost all the way throughout that loop. So if you listen to the lap again in real time, you'll hear that. With a Sulha, you have less opportunity, but you can still micro boost. If you're trying for 13 or 14 checkpoints with a very different kind of ship like the Koningswerf, the Lunar, or the ESA, then you don't have the flexibility of draining boost because of the augmented propeller, leading to a slower recharge. What I like to do here with the OET ships is to boost as I'm pitching up exiting the loop. And that is because here comes our second shortcut. This one is important now and critical as you're trying to get to the 15th checkpoint later on. So just like the last shortcut, there are a number of ways to approach this landing. If you are less proficient, you can land here on the right side where my mouse is. That is going to lead you to a very fast wall bounce into that chicane and save quite a bit of speed that you can then use in this upcoming straightaway. To get to 14 and especially 15 checkpoints, you're going to need to cut that corner entirely. So what I am looking to do is cut this kill plane as close as possible. Now notice something, you did not see that kill plane. And that is because the further I can land back from this checkpoint in the initial 2 laps, the better I am going to be able to angle myself around the chicane to hit my next turbo boost right here. For the final lap, you'll see that I cut very, very closely towards the kill plane because I only have maybe 0.3 of a second from the time of the bounce to reach the checkpoint to get my ultimate goal. Now from here, we have another large straightaway. We want to make sure we're slightly counter-strafing. But now we have 2 options to cut another portion of the track here. So the easier and more intended way of approaching this corner is, if you see my mouse on the bottom right of the ship, to wall bounce here in the corner, preserve speed, and exit in a straight line from that track surface. That has the benefit of being a little bit more repeatable and safer in race situations, but it has the detriment of potentially gaining more distance that you have to cover. What I do here is use some of the flexibility in the kill walls in these clouds and rocks to skirt through them. So I've cut a drastic amount of angle out of that turn, kept myself in the air, and that positions me to be able to fly and skip this entire landing to right-hand turn coming up. When you're doing this though, you want to try to preserve a bit of momentum going to your right here. And that's because when you land, this can be a relatively harsh stop. So notice how I'm trying to fly in a somewhat forwards direction, even though I'm making that right-hander to catch the track. This was done pretty well. It can definitely be better. But now what that allows me to do, assuming I get a good wall bounce, is to boost immediately upon landing to regain that speed I've lost. Now, out of the entire track, you've noticed that so far the mines have not been a problem. The biggest concern with this run is the amount of speed you can maintain in a time trial-like scenario, not avoidance of mines. But right here, just know that halfway through this loop, we need to skirt from the left side of the track to the right side of the track. And you can do this by simple strafing and a slight tap on your steering wheel to the right. Now once we exit here, the old school of thought that I had used in all of my 14 checkpoint runs was to try to position myself to land below the nose of the ship right now. So let me back it up a little bit. So if we can see right about here, you see where my mouse is? So this would have been my landing spot, which is the start of the track. The problem with this is, once again, we can encounter those mines that are in the middle of the track from the start, but now we have to skirt them in the air, which becomes much more difficult. So in my live stream, what I found out, somewhat by mistake, is that if you can orient the ship down coming off this jump, get just enough under this portion of the satellite to avoid the kill box, then what you can do is fly underneath it, completely avoid these mines on the bottom left, right here, and then take the turn coming out of that shortcut. Is it much faster? I believe a little bit. But if you can learn this, it's much more repeatable versus the amount of times that I made a mistake by hitting the mines. Now, as we come to lap 2, it's going to be much of the same strategy. Nothing really changes besides the fact that this upcoming section is a little bit more difficult because I did not have the opportunity to precisely line up my start the way I can in lap 1. So in lap 1, if I don't take that turn perfectly, just restart, do it again. But here, now I need to be in a good position to maintain speed. So if you were to check my velocity, you'll notice it's slower than lap 1, but that's one of the trade-offs of a multi-lap race. Same rules apply though, but know this, if you are trying to achieve this 14 or even 15 checkpoint time with an AP ship like Königsworth, which is ordinarily the time trial meta, if you're doing things right, you'll start to fall behind on your turbo boost timing, which makes it more and more difficult to achieve a clean second and third lap. Notice again that clean exit on the wall bounce, landing on the right side. I'm going to play this a little bit in real time, just so you can get a feel for my orientation and where I'm trying to guide the ship on these shortcuts. Once again, you can land low, bounce off that left-hander, but I prefer the high cut through the clouds. Now this was a very good exit on that wall bounce, so that's what you want to try and do. Now right now, we're at checkpoint number 11. One of the difficult things about this particular Platinum Trophy is that you have to get through this starting section twice. And if you factor in possible nerves or a slightly less than ideal boost pattern or angle by the time you reach the third lap, it becomes increasingly difficult to get a good start here. So this is usually where most of the runs are won or lost. In this particular run here, I did a really good job of getting around that corner again. And now from here, I'm at checkpoint 12. So if your goal is 13, all you need to do is get a clean exit here, boost through, and get to this checkpoint. Which if you have even 1 second left, 2 seconds left on your timer, land here. Don't try to cut the corner like I am. Land sooner, make your left wall bounce, and get your platinum. If you're going for 14, you need a little bit more time when we reach this checkpoint. I believe if you have about 4 seconds here, you should be okay because we do get a refresh. So watch this. See how the timer jumps from 6.4 to 9.8? So remember, each checkpoint is a 3.5 second advancement in time. Use this to your advantage when it comes to predicting what you need to do to achieve optimal times. Now, this is where it gets really difficult if you're going for 14 or 15. Because we have a choice here. If we're off pace, we can try a very aggressive cut through this shortcut, which would be trying to land up here and potentially hitting the kill plane. You're getting too low on the track, which would automatically kill you. Or playing a little bit more conservative, going more to this part of the track and landing. So that's what I did here. Figuring that I was on pace, possibly a little bit behind, I decided to cut it a little bit more conservatively and try to make it up in my final straightaway. Now, if anyone saw that little blip there exiting the track, just want to point this out here. So watch. Right there. So that actually was a collision against the wall, but because it did not make a sound, there is no speed penalty to that. It only changes my position slightly. So as I'm coming around this final corner, that was an early boost, and I know that with 4.5 seconds left, the 14th checkpoint on the end of the loop is well within reason, but 15 is going to be a struggle. So what I figured out is that you need to be boosting incessantly from this point all the way until the finish. So I'm turboing. I hit a huge turbo as I come up, pitch up real high. And now this is perhaps the most aggressive cut into that left corner that you'll ever see. So watch how closely I get to that spot. Look at that kill plane. Watch the bounce. And now from here, if you look at the timer, 0.3, 0.2, 0.1, and even right here, I'm not across the line until we get to here. So that was 0.05 that we had to play with in what you can deem to be a very, very good run with just a slightly conservative third lap. It becomes a real challenge, but I believe that 13 is obtainable for nearly all of you listening to this today, especially if you are passionate about this game and improving. So now I want to do this. Just for fun, let's run a little bit of a calculation and see if 16 checkpoints would be possible in this event. I'm going to use my Sulha run as the example here to showcase where the 16th checkpoint would be. So as we come across this left shortcut, you'll see right around here, our checkpoint marker will change to 4, right there. That would be checkpoint number 16. What we need to do then is to assume the amount of time that it takes to run our third lap. Going to use the Sulha because it's most likely a little bit faster. So let's run to checkpoint number 12, which is essentially the start of the new lap. Let's zero out our time and run it from here. So we're going to now calculate the amount of time that it took us to get to number 15. So right here at checkpoint 14, that was 17.81. We had some reserve in the timer. And now we've boosted, and we come across to the finish right here. So that's 22.76. So let's take that down. We have 22.76 for lap number 3. Now I'm going to add a few tenths of a second to that, because if we were trying to hit 16, we would need to be able to turbo in this straightaway here, which means that in the lead up to that run, we would have to save a little bit of our turbo. So that means that if we had 0.400 to spare from this run, and a perfect run would leave us maybe 600 or 700 to spare, let's run that 22.76 plus 0.700. So that's 86960616263646. So we are at 23.46 that we are going to estimate having to leave off of that particular run. Now what we're going to do is go to lap number 2. So we're going to bring this back, and what lap number 2 is going to allow us to determine is how long it takes us to get from what would essentially be the 15th checkpoint here to the 16th checkpoint. So let's take that time. We hit the turbo boost. Likely in a 15 to 16 run, that turbo would be later. And we're going to cross right about there. So let's go back a couple frames. And right here. So that's 7.07. So we have our 23.46, 7.07. So let's add those together. So now we have 23.76. Let me get my calculator here. So we have 30.53 seconds for lap number 3. We have estimated that a very, very good first lap on this run would be about a 43.5. So let's take 1/10 of a second off for a perfect run. 43.4 seconds. Now, let's take the ideal second lap. So between my runs and Interfector, who has also hit the 15 checkpoint mark, we've determined that a 42 flat is a basically perfect second run. So let's take 42.0. Now we have 115.93 seconds. So I want you to remember that number. What we're going to do now is calculate the amount of time that we have for this race. So if we clean this out, we have 60 seconds on the timer to start the event. Then we have the addition of, parenthesis, 15 checkpoints of 3.5 seconds each. So that brings us to 112.5 on a reasonably perfectly executed run. The sum of our lap times is 115.93, which means that 16 checkpoints is highly unlikely, unless some new strategy or cut is figured out in the near future. I hope this video helps and inspires each of you in the community to strive for at least 13 or even 14 checkpoints yourself. And when you reach the pinnacle of execution, maybe you'll be the next one to join us in the 15 checkpoint club. I want to thank you all so much for joining me for this first episode of 2022. There is a lot of excitement on the horizon with the Redout sequel being announced, and I'm so thankful to have all of you here for the ride. See you next time.